which effectively required the use of AI scan and ban technology in order to be compliant with German law. It imposed a $54 million fine for each incidence of so-called hate speech at the time. Language is not infinite in the same way that chess is not. There's only a finite number of words. Every time there's new slang that develops, that can be added very quickly by somebody on the coding side, and it pre-censors you. You get killed in the algorithm from it. And not only that, it allows you to very creatively structure things so that if you have, for example, like a 99% toxicity score, that might automatically delete it. But if it's a 90% toxicity score, it might send it into a purgatory zone where it's shadow banned. And they might set a threshold that, if it's 70% or less toxicity, then it will be allowed, whitelisted effectively, and be allowed to be said. And this I saw in these DARPA documents, and then traced it into the State Department and USAID and basically all across the government and the national security state, that this was being developed as a tool to be able to control the course of elections around the world, to be able to control the rise and fall of political movements. It was effectively an off button for opposition to the U.S. State Department. And when I recognized the totality of that by late 2017, early 2018, it completely changed my life. I started writing a book on this right away in 2016. Weapons of Mass Deletion it was about the AI story.
Oh, that's a good name.
It's this idea, it was this idea that AI censorship technology was to speech what nuclear weapons were to warfare, completely changing the face of it forever. You don't need a standing army of 1 million troops to be able to take on another country with 1 million troops. Right. All you need are 2 or 3 atom bombs, and it's over. And you could do this. So you wouldn't need a standing army of hundreds of thousands of manual sensors in order to keep up with hundreds of thousands of misinformation purveyors. You just need 2 or 3 lines of code.
Right.
And then late 2017, a law passed in Germany called NetzDG, which effectively required the use of AI scan and ban technology in order to be compliant with German law. It imposed a $54 million fine for each incidence of so-called hate speech at the time that was not removed by the platform within 48 hours. And there's a safe harbor for companies that had AI filters. And then that quickly spread across Europe. And then 2018 is really when Americans started to feel this huge closure of the things that they could talk about online. And it was all coming from this transatlantic government alliance, effectively, between the U.S. and effectively NATO, which was concerned that Brexit in the UK was going to cause Frexit in France if Marine Le Pen won.
Right.
It would cause Drexit in Germany if the AfD party won. It would cause Spexit in Spain if the Spanish Vox party won. It'll exit in Italy with Matteo Salvini. And so they thought, okay, if we allow free speech on the internet, NATO will dissolve, the EU will dissolve, and then NATO will dissolve, and then there's no enforcement arm for the IMF and the World Bank, so the international banks will collapse. So, it would be the ending scene from Fight Club if we don't censor the internet.
Quick question, Mike, because obviously this is sinister as and you and I are going to be on the same side of this issue with you. The slippery slope of banning free speech is far worse than the alternative. I think we just have to set that as a baseline. Trying to understand where people may think, where the difference between like evil versus like just the right intentions and completely wrong, I guess, like game plan would be. Is it possible that some of the people in these organizations who are coming up with this stuff, be it in NATO or in the EU or all the above, are looking at it like a lot of this stuff is an attack from the East on our systems to try to break us all apart, which is going to fuck us in the long run? Therefore, I guess it's better to censor speech so that doesn't happen?
I think that's bullshit. I think all of Russiagate was bullshit. I think
it was proven.
Yeah, it was complete bullshit. I mean, you have John Brennan, the CIA director, with advanced knowledge before it even happened
Yep.
that Hillary Clinton. What was Brennan's note to Obama? That Hillary Clinton was working on concocting, a narrative that Donald Trump would be backed by the Russians. I think that was in June 2016, July 2016, and the whole thing. But that was simply they needed that to have the legal predicate to use the tools of the national security state. The CIA is not allowed to go after domestic citizens, domestic politicians, domestic affairs at all.
Yep.
Neither is the State Department, neither is USAID, neither is the Department of War. But they have one get out of Constitution jail free card, and it's called counterintelligence. The CIA can spy on Americans as part of a counterintelligence probe if we suspect those Americans are being used wittingly or unwittingly by a hostile foreign nation state. So you need a Russiagate predicate if you want the CIA to spy on them. The USAID, the corruption factory that I think I've been a big part in blowing open here. They are not allowed. Their predicate is democracy promotion. They have all these programs to overthrow foreign governments in the name of promoting democracy. If we label a foreign leader a threat to democracy, that they are an autocrat and cracking down on their own people and, ironically, suppressing free speech, attacking the civil society institutions, cracking down on media, then we fund a regime change army within their country, NGOs, trade organizations, union groups, lawyers, judges, parliamentarians, university academics, student groups, ethnic identity groups, gender identity groups. We fund a whole army in order to topple that government in color revolutions if we declare them a threat to democracy. So if you want to unleash that NGO money spigot and create that army here with that government money, you need to come up with a lie that the person you're targeting is a threat to democracy. And lo and behold, what was the big word that they used about Trump? He was a threat to democracy, an autocrat, the same thing.
Dictator, yeah.
Exactly, because that's all they have.
Yep.
I come back to the Derek Zoolander thing. They have one look. That's it. They have one look. And it's the moneymaker for them. Yeah. It's what made them the male models they are. But they need to throw that look, or else they don't have the magic. They can't arm the NGOs with all the money.
And they can't have
the
now.
What's that?
They've killed it now.
They've wounded it. Yeah, it's complicated. There have been a lot of big actions that are partially instated, but there's a long ways to go to bring it to the finish line, and it's getting very bumpy. Mm-hmm. The courts have blocked implementation of a lot of it, and we can get into specifics. And the other side of it is, the executive branch has done, I think, more in 130 days than any executive branch in my lifetime on this, and more than I thought that they would be able to accomplish in 4 years already, just in a little over 4 months. But there are two holdups. There's the judicial branch layer and the legislative branch layer. A huge portion of the Republican side of Congress is juiced by these same skids as the Democrats are. They're internationalists. They represent multinational corporations who want USAID to cut the wind for them, who want State Department International Affairs budgets to ink deals for their companies or to secure markets for them. They want war to secure natural resources or to secure supply lines or to secure territory or to alter the dynamics of trade. Oil and gas, for example, was big on this when it comes to Ukraine, Russia. Yeah. Blowing up the Nord Stream pipeline created the giant market for U.S. liquefied natural gas. All of the, Exxon, Chevron, Shell in the UK, Norway, all of these countries made hundreds of billions of dollars because of the CIA via Ukraine blowing up the Nord Stream pipeline. And so, and a lot of that is Republican. And so what we're seeing is that many of these DOGE cuts are not making it through into this big, beautiful bill. I've seen some figure that it was only 5.4% of the DOGE cuts are actually going to be codified.
Thank you guys for checking out this clip. If you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe and hit the like button on this video. It is a huge, huge help. And if you'd like to check out this clip's full podcast episode, that link is in the description below or right here. And finally, you can follow me on Instagram and X by using the links in my description below.